The weather in Montana this spring has been completely crazy. The last 48 hours we got a lot of snow. I even had to put Ziggy in a blanket.
Ziggy!
We did get a little bit more rain last night. Ziggy's pen is a little bit on the muddy side, but it should dry up really quickly. We are going to have almost a week with temperatures reaching 70 degrees during the day. So even though I just bought this heavy duty sheet for him, I am going to have to take it off of him today.
Whoops, sorry, buddy.
He is a little bit squirmy about the leg straps. This looks like a task that I'm gonna have to do two-handed this morning. I can already tell that he is starting to feel so much better with his tooth knocked down a little bit. He doesn't seem as agitated, which could just be him settling into the routine here.
Hey there, where were you? Hey girl.
I am not sure where this girl was this morning. She was probably off grazing somewhere away from the pen. When I put Ziggy's new sheet on 2 days ago, he was a tiny bit wet and it looks like he has one little spot of fungus that popped up. I have seen him walking the fence quite a bit, so it probably just heated up under the blanket and caused some little nasties to start growing. I will have to get something to treat these little spots with so they don't get out of control. Thankfully, since it's going to be super warm, he will be able to just roam around with no blanket on and air it out. It is nuts how much extra weight he's already started putting on with his special mash meals. Since I'm trying to keep the amount of sugar that Ziggy gets pretty low, I do need to get a new vitamin mineral supplement for him today. There's a pretty bougie feed store in town that carries one that I think will work perfect for him. I do have a lot of stuff planned for today. I was up at 6 a.m. this morning. I was working on a video. It is now 8:30 and I'm off to feed the other horses at the barn. The creek is looking like it is getting a lot of snow melt off of the mountain from the recent snowstorm.
Buddy.
As usual, Huckleberry was filled with energy this morning. He was excited to check the perimeter and see if he could snatch up any gophers. It is so crazy the difference in the weather between the last couple of days and now. Since the weather has been so crummy, I do have a little bit of a backup of chores to do.
Skelly! Skelly! Breakfast?
Skeletor is super happy to be outside in his pen. I did put him inside in the stall for the really bad weather and he did not like it. He has gotten really good at self-regulating. I haven't seen him trot around in quite a while. Studman has been liking his private suite as well.
Little Stinky. Hey, little buddy. Nigel.
Nigel is really upset about staying in a stall.
You hungry? Nigel.
I do want to turn him outside, but I am going to clip him soon and I don't want him getting covered in mud.
Nigel. Hey, buddy. Nigel.
I can already tell that it is going to be a really hot day out. All of the grass seems to have really soaked up all of the moisture we got over the last couple days and it is probably going to sprout up. The boys do have a little bit of a soggy dry lot this morning. That should also dry up in the next day or two. I have had quite a few people ask me why the horses aren't out on pasture right now. In order for it to be safe for them to eat, it needs to be above 40 degrees at night. It also needs to be about 4 inches high. Here is a view of some of the new grass that I planted. There are actually quite a few weeds mixed in there, so hopefully they don't get out of control. The big problem with turning horses out on spring grass when it's still cold overnight and still growing is the amount of sugars.
Come on. Here. Here.
I have a few horses that are prone to laminitis, and if I were to turn them out right now, they probably would have a pretty significant event. I really like to hold out as long as I can and let the grass grow as tall as possible, ideally getting the horses out on it right before it seeds. Typically, I don't turn them out onto the big pasture until the 1st of June. My ankle is feeling a lot better. I'm still taping it every day. And I have only been here about 10 minutes and I'm starting to have to shed layers. The trusty old four-wheeler is chugging right along. Whiplash and Goose have a dry lot that is quite soggy, so I'm just going to feed them along the fence where the footing is solid. I can definitely tell that the horses are starting to get bored. They want to get out and do stuff and start getting worked again. I can tell Goose has been frustrated. He hasn't been able to sneak out onto the nice spring grass. And unfortunately, it does look like I'm starting to grow things in my arena because I haven't used it in quite a while. It kind of looks like I'm actually trying to plant grass in here, so I'm going to have to get this dug up today. Once the arena starts to grow weeds, they are impossible to get rid of. It looks like Huckleberry is starting his morning off with a little gopher hunt. I'm super surprised this year there haven't been hardly any gophers out. I don't know if something happened to them over the winter or what the deal is, but usually there are a few hundred pouncing around. And it looks like Huckleberry is locked into this hole. I don't think it's a surprise that there are a lot of gopher holes that popped up where I planted all the new seed this year. It looks like they have been out here harvesting all of the little baby grasses.
Come on.
It is pretty hard to lay down new seed without the gophers or the birds picking them up. Another thing that Skeletor has gotten a lot better at since his time in his own personal pen is his patience. He used to be the very first one fed, and now I make him wait a little bit. He doesn't even trot around anymore. He just waits patiently for his breakfast. I think part of the reason for his impatience was the fact that he was starved when I got him. I have found that sometimes it takes those horses a little bit longer to settle into the idea that they are always going to have food available to them. Studman is aggressively shaking his hay bag to get to all of the tastiest alfalfa leaves this morning. Nigel is still really enjoying his new mash combination. Hopefully in the next day or two, I'll be able to get his winter hair completely gone. He did shed a lot more of it out, but it is still quite thick, and with it being up in the 70s for the next week, I think he will enjoy a haircut. Prim has just been chilling out as usual. I am really excited to get her started under saddle this year. And tomorrow is Frisco Bill's birthday.
Frisco Bill? Oh boy.
I don't really have anything special planned. I am just grateful every year when his birthday rolls around that he is happy and healthy. Since these pens are still pretty wet, I am going to wait until this afternoon to get them cleaned. It is wild how much grass popped up into Nigel's pen just over the last couple of days. Since Nigel can't eat all this grass, I will have one of the other horses turned out in there until it is almost all gone. With all of the horses fed over here, I am going to clean up all of Ziggy's mash buckets. I do still have to bring him his hay for the afternoon. Skeletor did run out of grass hay, and I decided not to get another giant bale from the same guy, so I'm gonna have to go pick up a few small bales for him today. I am also almost out of fuel for the four-wheeler, so that is on my list of things to do. As I was going through the checklist in my head before I left for the morning, I remembered I left the water on. I think Huckleberry is really excited to be out on the gopher prowl and that there is no snow on the ground today. After all the cold weather, it kind of feels like a little tropical vacation. I'm gonna go ahead and try and get my boots washed off a little bit. I try really hard not to bring hay particles into the house, but it always seems to happen no matter what. I typically blame it on Huckleberry, but I'm pretty sure that I have quite a few stuck on me as well.
Come on.
I can tell that Huckleberry is not quite ready to go home again. With all of the horses happily munching their breakfast, I am ready to go back to the quarantine pen and give Ziggy his hay for the day. I try to give him his hay after he's done with his mash for the morning, just so I know exactly how much nutrition he's getting. I have been filling up his bag with about 20 pounds of hay, so this is pretty heavy. I am going to take a shortcut to get to his pen. This should be a good test to see how my ankle is healing up. This property that I rent is irrigated, and this is how the water gets sucked out of the creek. This creek will get much higher when the snow starts melting on the tippy top of the mountains. This little 2x6 is a little bit of a treacherous bridge to go over. But I have a ton of things to do today, and I am going to shave time off anywhere I can.
Ziggy! Come on!
It looks like Ziggy has finally succumbed to that mayor's advances. I think he is probably happy his mouth is not in so much pain anymore. And naturally, he has covered himself in mud already. Since I was just touching all the other horses, I am only going to toss his hay in and then go about my day. It is nice to see that this girl has quieted down a little bit.
Okay, buddy, come on. Let's go. Come on. Got a stick? Get a stick. Sticks everywhere. Come on. Get a stick. Bring it here. Don't drop.
Huckleberry is a little bit covered in horse poop, so I'm going to get him into the creek for a tiny dip. I also don't want him pushing me off this narrow bridge. With all of my chores done for the morning, I am going to head into the house and finish a video that I am going to release later today. I have been playing around with my schedule a little bit and trying to get some more sleep at night. I worked on this video this morning, and then I just have to do another quick run through to make sure everything's perfect, and then I'll set it for a premiere time today. I do still try and read all of the comments that you guys leave. I am getting a little bit behind, but every time I have a free 15 or 20 minutes, like when I'm making my lunch, I go ahead and respond to a bunch of them. Some days it is a little bit overwhelming because there is no way I can read and respond to all of them now. I am getting super close to 71,000 subs today, so that is nuts. I also edit all of my videos and everything, so I am going back through the video I'm about to release and adjusting all the sound and putting in a few little transitions. It has been super fun learning how to do all of this stuff. If you guys have been watching for a very long time, I hope you can see that there is a big difference between my videos now and maybe the ones I posted from a year ago. I am just rewatching the whole entire video on 3x speed to make sure I didn't miss anything. Once everything is ready, I'm gonna get it set to upload with all of the settings correct for YouTube. I do try and keep everything organized, which is getting a little bit easier for me. I have a few minutes to wait while this is rendering, so I'm gonna go ahead and make a quick thumbnail for the video. Once that is done, I am ready to upload. I have been playing around with the times. I do still like to be live in the chat for these. I think it's kind of fun and I can answer any questions you guys have real time. While that is uploading and my lunch is cooking, I am actually going to start on another video. It is actually the video you're watching right now. So this is all of the raw footage I took this morning. Because I'm so busy, I'm trying to plan more than one thing at once. So while I eat my lunch, I am watching the premiere of the video I just uploaded with everyone. When that's done, I do have to get back to work and Huckleberry has to come inside.
Come on.
I will be heading into town, and with it so warm out, Huckleberry is going to have to stay at home. It is about an hour after that video premiered and it looks like it's doing really well. On my way to town, I'm going to stop at the gas station and get some fuel for the four-wheeler. There are a lot of things on my list to consider when I'm looking for a new property. And one of them is a giant fuel tank, so I don't have to waste my time filling up these tiny canisters. We are still on the hunt for the perfect property, but this time of year is a little bit cutthroat to buy what we want at a price that's reasonable. So until we find our own place, I will keep making a list in my head of all of the things I really want to have at the new property. I am going to check this task off my mental list and then head into town to do some shopping for Skeletor and Ziggy. Since the last grass hay I bought was kind of a flop, I know I can get a suitable mix for Skeletor here. After a quick peek at the hay, yep, this is perfect. I head inside and find the supplement that I'm wanting to try on Ziggy. This store is a little bit on the bougie side and they do have a lot of things that a normal feed store would not have. This is a blend of copper and zinc, which I do feed a lot of the horses, but I buy it separately in bulk. Nutrition is really important to me, especially when I'm rehabbing a horse like Ziggy. The faster I can get them back on track, the faster they can go on to doing normal horse things. All of my horses are on a forage-based diet, so typically they need the addition of a loose mineral supplement. I use a similar one to this on all my other horses, but I've been meaning to give this a try for a while. It is $40, so I'll add it to Ziggy's total. They have a lot of products that are really trendy with the barefoot crowd, which was kind of interesting to see. I also saw some of these products, which I love. I thought about getting this spray for Ziggy. It is like the shampoo that I use for the other horses. But really, I have stuff at the barn that will work just as good or better than this. I am getting a little bit distracted in here. They have a crazy selection of perishable food for dogs. Since Huckleberry catches himself fresh gophers, this is unnecessary for him. This hay is quite expensive. It was $18.99 a bale. I picked up 3 bales to test out, and they are pretty close to 90 pounds. Since I am in town, I am just gonna pop into the Goodwill for a quick little shop. For those of you guys that are new to my channel, I do sell stuff online to pay for these horses. I have really cut back a lot since I started doing YouTube more seriously, but it has been a little bit hard for me to just stop going to the thrift store. I found the coolest vintage set today. It is a sports bra and 2 pairs of shorts and a matching hat. I found some Lululemon pants, a vintage Patagonia Hawaiian shirt, this funky reworked flannel, and a Stio vest that might be for me, but I might end up selling it. I also got a coffee cup for me that was actually brand new. I only spent about 45 minutes shopping today, and I was able to go through the entire store. I ended up spending $29 on everything that I bought today. I do really like thrift shopping, and I am excited for the day when I don't have to do it to pay my bills. I will link my store in the description if anybody wants to check it out. It is now 2 o'clock, and it looks like the new video is doing really well. I pop back home to pick up Huckleberry and head back to the barn. We did get these fancy new Wi-Fi cameras, and I got alerted that there was something in the arena. I have a camera set up in there so my husband can see me when I'm riding in case I get hurt. I was really surprised to see that Goose had slipped through the fence. I am not entirely sure how he managed to do that, but these rails aren't very thick around. Goose is one of the horses that does have some metabolic concerns. I am extremely careful with him when I turn everybody out on grass for the spring. I am really lucky that I was close to my house when I got alerted that something was not right, because the gate for the arena was wide open. Judging from the alert, he was only out for about 5 to 10 minutes before I was able to make it over.
Skelly.
Typically, Skeletor is the main troublemaker.
Oh no, Skelly.
I'm a little bit surprised he hasn't tried to slip out and get some fresh spring grass. I was planning on grooming a bunch of the horses and giving them some baths, but I need to fix this fence right now.
Goose?
Goose is trying to act casual, like he just accidentally ended up in here and is having a snack. I think what probably happened is they were playing around and he probably slipped in the mud and crashed through the bottom fence rail. Although not a calculated escape effort, he took the opportunity.
I'm on to you, buddy.
As I get closer to him, I can tell from the mud all along his knees that he must have army crawled underneath the rail that was still intact. He also has a mark on his back from where he slipped underneath the fence. It looks like he came out through the hole and then did just a few laps around the arena getting snacks. Thankfully, I was able to make it out here really quick before he caused too much damage. I love how Huckleberry thinks that he is definitely helping the situation. The evidence is all over Goose. I can see exactly where the rail ran down his back as he was slipping under. As usual, he is acting like I don't feed him every single day, twice a day. Goose is one of the horses that has a permanent residence here because of how reactive he is. While he wasn't abused like some of the other horses, he just has a very flighty personality. He gets set on the back burner a lot just because I know he's not going anywhere. I am really proud of Skeletor for not getting wound up with the little bit of excitement from Goose's escape. I think the diet change and all of his turnout has really helped him quiet his mind. It is now around 3 p.m. and Huckleberry finally caught a gopher today. He is kind of a gross dog and he will leave it out in the sun until it turns into a little bit of gopher jerky before he actually eats it. These fence rails do break periodically because they aren't very thick. When that happens, it can be a little bit tricky getting to the screws. I got a little bit distracted when I remembered I needed to fill up the four-wheeler with fuel. I want to get this done as quickly as possible, so I'm going to bring an extra little hay snack out to Whiplash and Goose to entice Goose to go back into his dry lot. I am going to put this in a safe place for now. Every spring the birds build little nests in the front of my trailer, and it kind of bums me out because I do travel quite a lot in the summer. I try to put them in a safe place when I leave, but I'm always worried that they're going to have little baby birds in there. It is close enough to dinner time that the boys are just awaiting their next meal. This should be a big enough snack to entice Goose. It is wild how quickly this dry lot actually dried up from all of the moisture over the last couple of days. I do have to give this tank a good scrubbing, and then I'm ready to corral Goose back into the dry lot. Huckleberry was on the gopher hunt, but once he realized there was herding to do, he popped into action. Contrary to Huckleberry's looks and heritage, he is not a very good herding dog. Once upon a time, I did try and work him on sheep when he was very, very young. Some dogs really like the work, and then others get quite distracted and just end up playing around.
Round them up, buddy. Round them up.
Huckleberry is definitely one of those dogs that gets very distracted. He determined the best course of action would be to go get a jolly ball to help herd up Goose. There's really no sense in working all day when you can play and do work at the same time. It looks like I'm on my own to get Goose back in his dry lot. He thinks about giving me the runaround, and then he realizes where the fresh hay snack is. Goose is extremely smart, even though he is pretty reactive.
Good job, Huckleberry.
And in typical fashion, Huckleberry is convinced that it was all him that got Goose back where he was supposed to be. With Goose back in and the fence all repaired, I can now start in on the extra chores that I had planned for today. I get asked all the time why I never ride any of the horses. I feel like this is pretty typical for someone that is doing all of the work on their own. I was taught growing up that first you have to make sure all of the chores are done, and then you can go on to do fun things with the horses. Most horse people probably know this, but there are always more things to do than you had anticipated, like dragging your arena so the weeds don't pop up and make more work for you. These cinder blocks on the drag have been doing a really good job of breaking up the soil and getting the weeds dislodged. It is a little bit too heavy for the four-wheeler to pull, so I gotta go nice and slow when I do this. After making a few figure eights on the problem area, I am ready to go ahead and drag the entire arena. I will probably have to drag this every single day until all the weeds are gone. Huckleberry looks like he's back on the gopher hunt. This drag did a really good job of breaking up the soil, but I'm going to go ahead and drag it one more time in the opposite direction. This arena has horrible footing. If I was building an arena that was going to make horses go lame, this is the kind of footing I would put in it. It is basically sand mixed with crusher fines, which you really don't want when you have horses trying to do work. I am going to rearrange the cinder blocks to try and dig up the sand even more. This is another one of the things that I would really like to fix, but since this isn't my place, it is not financially feasible. I have tried scraping all of the really pokey rocks off the top a few times in the past. My horses that have been barefoot for quite some while and have real rock crunching feet don't have any problem in the arena. Newer horses that I get in with sensitive soles do usually have to have shoes put on while their feet toughen up. It looks like Huckleberry is making a little bit of headway on his gopher hunt. With the arena finished, I am going to take Skeletor out and do his dry lot as well. The four-wheeler was really overheating, so it needed a couple of minutes to cool down. I am really trying to prevent having to replace this old girl this year, so I'm kind of babying her a little bit.
He would.
Huckleberry saw that we were on to the next task, so naturally he came over to supervise. Skeletor is looking a little bit on the disgusting side. I am going to put him in Nigel's pen to kind of chew down the grass, but before that I am going to give him a little bit of a rinse off. I did goose him a little bit with the water accidentally. The water is nice and warm today, so he was able to stand still and get a good rinse off before I put him in Nigel's pen. Skeletor was turned out with Frisco Bill for probably the first 2 months that he was here. Frisco Bill is really good at showing young horses the ropes, and he is a good disciplinarian. They would actually probably be the perfect buddies to be turned out together in the smaller pasture. I am pretty sure that Frisco Bill would not go for that with how close he is with Prim these days. He said a quick hello to Skeletor, but then he decided it was much more important to make sure that he didn't try and steal his mare away. My plan has always been to kind of replace Prim with Scarlet. Frisco Bill doesn't really care for Scarlet too much yet, so hopefully that will change over the summer. Skeletor looks like he's keeping nice and calm as he investigates this new pen. Stewie looks like he's a little bit jealous of the few little grass snacks that Skeletor is getting. This would be a good pen to leave Skeletor out in all the time, but it is not very solid and the fence is not very high. After a few minutes, Skeletor decided that he might try and jump around. He doesn't do this very often anymore, and after a few jumps he realizes that maybe he should just walk calmly. I think his tendon is healing up very nicely, but he does know that if he horses around too much, it is going to hurt the next couple of days.
Buddy, banana?
It is time for a little bit of a snack before I get back to work. Huckleberry loves bananas as well, so he gets a little snack too. After the few little bucks, Skeletor settled right back down and went back to snacking on the grass. I get right after cleaning his pen up so I can drag it and hopefully get a lot more chores done this evening. I have to clean all of the runs in the barn and also Scarlet's round pen. I would love to hire somebody to do this, but one of the agreements I have with the owner of the place is that I don't bring any other people out here. With the number of horses I have, I think they just don't want anybody getting hurt that isn't leasing the facility. Once we find our own place, I'll finally be able to hire someone to help me with all of this stuff.
Huckleberry! Hey, buddy!
Huckleberry is really zoned in on this gopher hole. He is completely ignoring me. I haven't seen very many active burrows, so this must be one of the only ones. While he's on the gopher hunt, I am going to unload the truck with some things I've bought over the last couple of days. Last month I did have a pretty good month, so I was able to buy a few things that I have been wanting. I'm going to go ahead and test out this ration balancer on some of the horses. I am honestly not a very big fan of this brand, but it is easier for me to get in a hurry. I did buy a bunch of stuff for Nigel for when I do his makeover video that is top secret. I splurged on a new wheel thing for my trailer and a set of blocks just in case. I also picked up a few things that were on my wish list that you guys sent me. These are also for Nigel's makeover. Since Nigel does have a coat like a woolly mammoth, I did have to get some heavy duty clippers in order to get all of his hair off. I am super excited about finally getting that task done.
Tiny! Tiny! Come here.
Tiny finally came out for the day. She has been extremely grumpy with the bad weather.
Gotcha. Tiny!
It is nice to actually see her out and rolling around and laying in the sun. Naturally, she came over for some pretty intense snuggles today. When she is in a good mood, she is a very affectionate little cat. Even though I do have a lot more things to get done today, it never hurts to take some time out and have a good snuggle with Tiny. Sometimes I do get bogged down with the amount of work that it takes to actually keep these horses healthy. But a few extra minutes with my little tiny cat and everything in the world seems right again. We had a seriously long snuggle session, and after about 15 minutes, I needed to get back to work.
Tired? The air conditioning on?
Poor Huckleberry looks like he has finally run out of steam for the day. It is really hot out and he cannot stay in the truck.
I'll go for a dip.
The battery on my phone was running pretty low, so I decided to turn the truck on, charge it up, and get some air conditioning going for this guy. It is just after 5 o'clock and still 70 degrees out. The boys are patiently waiting for their dinner, but I've got to get this doggo cooled down. I'm gonna go put away everything that I bought and give Huckleberry some time to relax in the truck with the AC on.
Wanna go for a swim?
After about 10 minutes, he was feeling a lot more spry. Just to make sure he was cooled down, I took him back to the creek for a little bit of a dip. It does look like this is running a little bit stronger than usual. I think he knows how cold this is because he was a little bit hesitant to get in. But after a little calculating, he finally plopped himself down. Since Huckleberry is opposed to being clean, he made sure to coat himself in the stinkiest mud he could find. It looks like that really got him to spring back to life. Since I don't want him to get too overheated, I'm just going to play a little bit of stick with him. This should also get off any of the stink that he rolled around in. After his little break, it looked like he was ready to get back to his chores. I did unload the hay that I bought Skeletor, and I'm going to test it out and see how many meals worth of hay I can get out of a single bale. Just for reference, the last grass hay that I bought was $300 for a big bale. I figured it was around 1,400 to 1,500 pounds, making it about 20 cents a pound. I was able to get about 7 10-pound bags and 2 5-pound bags out of the new bales, which makes it around 23 cents a pound. So really, it's not that much more expensive than the big bale I recently got.
Skelly.
The alfalfa that I buy comes out to around 9 cents a pound, so it is quite a bit more expensive than buying it in bulk. I do think the price difference is definitely worth it to keep Skeletor calm. I am planning on putting some temporary fence up in this pasture for Skeletor so he can be out on grass for most of the summer. I'm still a little bit up in the air as to who I'm going to put him out with. He does seem to be doing really well by himself. Huckleberry found himself another active burrow that he's waiting to pounce on. This is another little area that I fenced off for the horses. I am starting to think that Skeletor might be fine here at the barn just on his own where he can see the other horses. Anytime you introduce a new horse, there is going to be a lot of playing and jumping around in the beginning. I'm just not sure that I want to risk that with him right now because he is doing a lot better in his rehab at this point.
Tired, buddy?
Huckleberry looks like he is running out of steam. The boys are also starting to lose their sense of humor about why their dinner hasn't been delivered yet. Typically, I would feed the horses and go ahead and work some of them until the sun goes down. But since I have been doing YouTube, I do need to go home so I can make a video for tomorrow. I had been spending a lot more time at the barn later in the evening, but then it just takes me too long to finish the videos. It is something that I'm working on trying to balance right now, so hopefully I'll have it figured out here pretty quick. I do really like making videos for you guys, but there are only so many hours in the day.
Come on, load up. Come on. Whoa.
I have gotten a lot faster at editing since I started this whole YouTube thing, so hopefully that will just continue to improve. Currently, it takes me about 2.5 hours to edit a video that's around 10 minutes long, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but if I make a 40-minute video, that is quite a bit of time. I am just about finished with all of the chores here at the barn for the day. I got all of the turds cleaned up, everybody has fed their hay, and now I'm feeding all of the ration balancers. Skeletor is probably the one that gets the most actual hard feed. He gets 2 pounds of ration balancer and a pound of rice pellets every day. None of these horses get your typical grain that a lot of people feed. With all of these horses situated, I am gonna fix Ziggy up with his mashes for this evening. I've got his hay bag ready. All that's left to do is tuck the horses in for the night. I did grab some gauze with some chlorhexidine on it that I'm going to use to clean up Ziggy's little spots of fungus tonight.
There you go.
It is around 6:30 when I'm ready to head back to the quarantine pen. I do feel satisfied with the amount of work I was able to get done today. It doesn't take Huckleberry very long to cool down, and he was asleep before we even left the driveway. It is still really bright out, so I could definitely work some of the horses. But I do have to get back to Ziggy and give him his dinner. This girl was also waiting to try and steal some snacks.
Come on, Huckleberry. Come on. Let's go.
I can tell that Huckleberry is running low on steam because he's kind of lollygagging behind.
Ziggy!
It looks like Ziggy still has some hay left from this morning. It looks like his back is pretty sore from all of the shivering that he did during the last couple of cold days. I didn't mix his new mineral in with his mash this evening. I'm going to start him on it tomorrow. But that should definitely fill some of the gaps in his nutrition.
All right.
He did not like the smell of the chlorhexidine.
All right.
He only has one big spot that I'm worried about right where the saddle sits. I am expecting to ride this guy fairly soon, so I want to make sure he doesn't have fungus that he could spread around. I think all of the other spots that I felt on him this morning must have been dirt. I am having a hard time finding any more that need to be treated. I really kind of like having one of the horses over here because it's the perfect way to wind down after the day. Hopefully in the next couple of days I can give this guy a serious bath.
Okay. Hungry, buddy? Come on.
With all of the horses fed, it's now time for Huckleberry to get his dinner. It is now around 7 p.m. and while I'm done with the horses for the day, I still have to go and actually edit this video that you're watching. I eat dinner and edit for about 4 hours. I pop my head outside just in time to see some of the amazing northern lights that were visible from Montana. I have been trying to go to bed before midnight, so I do end up crashing for the night after this. I've got a few more hours of editing to do on this video before it's ready to release, so I'm just gonna have to finish it in the morning. Thank you guys so much for watching and stay tuned for the next video.